let's go back now to session number 15, where you learned about karma, because all of this has karma embedded in it. You learned about the essence of karma. And tell us what you learned about karma at that time.
I mean, I was an academic and I was a professor of religious studies, so I had an intellectual understanding of karma, which is simply cause and effect generated by choices that we make. There are physical cause and effect processes, and there's psychological cause and effect processes. And in the traditional worldview of karmic thought, every choice we make sets in motion a series of events which eventually we receive the consequences of, we receive the effects of. And by receiving the effects of our choices, we learn from those choices and we make a new set of choices. What I learned in session 15 wasn't so much a theoretical interpretation of karma, because I had that. It was a seeing and being shown the karma of my particular life. I went through a series of sessions for a year, over and over again for seven sessions, where I experienced the entirety of my life from beginning to end as a totality, as a finished, complete totality. And this is my first entry into what I came to call deep time. And in that context, when I looked at relationships, the relationships around me, my people, when I looked at the issues that I was working with in my professional life, I could see how deeply embedded they were in a deeper series of karmic causal processes, that my position in history was not accidental. The people I was with were not accidental. It was a meaningful fabric. Then the question became simply, how do you respond most effectively to a meaningful fabric that your life is part of?
Okay, that brings us to something that I wasn't going to ask you about, but it seems like the right point. You just spoke about every decision we make has an effect. And so yesterday, 2 days ago, a book was released by Dr. Robert Sapolsky, and it has to do with the science of living with no free will. The title's something like that, as I recall. But essentially, he came to the conclusion that there is no such thing as making a decision in free will, that we're machines and we cannot lay anything that we do upon ourselves any more than we would any other machine. Yeah. So I would love for you to respond to that.
Well, I haven't read that book, of course, and so no
just came out.
Yeah. And, but that's a very familiar position among my philosophers in my department, among philosophers in general. And it derives from a vision of the universe, which is based upon a kind of a 19th century metaphysics, which sees the universe as a machine, as a deterministic machine, and all the parts are determined by the larger movement of the whole. And we have no freedom. But I think that's a deeply outmoded and outdated vision of reality. We're now looking at a quantum world. We're in a world which values indeterminacy, that there's much more flexibility in the system than we had previously thought. 96% of reality is dark matter or dark energy, and we don't know anything about it. I think if we just step back, it's clear that much of our psychological life is clearly highly conditioned. But within that highly conditioned context, we make choices, and the choices we make can increase the conditioning or it can reduce the conditioning.
Exactly.
And we can increase our freedom. But nobody exists in pure absolute freedom, except perhaps the awakened, the fully enlightened beings. But we can increase the freedom by skillful choices.
I hope you're enjoying this video, because if you are, there are dozens more like it on my site, all supported by people like you. So if you'd like to keep this work rolling in and join our community, just click on the Patreon button at reginameredith.com. That also gives you access to insider commentary, my live book club, and other live events with special guests. So join in. Thanks.
I was very disturbed because the media picked right up on this, and he got a loudspeaker off of this one. I thought, this is so archaic, and essentially saying we have no self-responsibility either. Yes, we can't take credit for the best of us, but we also don't take credit for the worst of ourselves. We have no part in what we do as acting as machines. I thought, like you, how outdated is this, considering the quantum reality that we're becoming aware of? So one thing I wanted to read out of your book, because your talk is, this feeds into it, the notion of us, we have a soul. We have something that transcends this physical reality, which that author does not recognize, by the way. So when at the end of the karma, it says energy started must simply complete itself. And that's the nature of karma. So then I go into this area that I chose, where you're defining the soul itself, because a lot of people wonder, what is it I'm made of? At the most etheric, most sublime part of myself. It says, a story of individual consciousness ultimately sourced in the creative intelligence of the cosmos, systematically moving back and forth between the physical universe and a surround metaverse in a long journey of self-development. I think that's one of the best definitions of soul, and the one I probably relate most strongly to in my own system of understanding. Anything that you care to add to that, so people can understand that this soul is here for expansion, experience, choice, and anything you'd like to add to that in terms of what you came to understand is what our soul is and what it's here to do.
Just as we have a center of integration that integrates all of our experiences from this lifetime, and we're not quite sure how to describe that or what it is, but we know what it feels like and what we can understand it. The soul is simply a center of integration that integrates all of our experiences from all of our lifetimes and our times in between our lifetimes. So it is a center of integration that is a learning system. It's part of a learning system which is continuously growing, continuously expanding and deepening. And if we ask, what is the essence of what that consciousness is? Classic spiritual traditions have said the essence of every individual, the soul, is the essence of the totality. Atman is Brahman. The essence of the soul is the essence of the divine. For me, the form, if in my deepest experience of the form of the soul and the form of all reality, is light. It's light, but not light, not light as we experience it in the physical world, a much more profound form of light. It is light, but it is light which is self-aware and learning over vast epochs of time and continuing to evolve as it learns. And I think we are coming in the time to a transformation which is going to change. I think we are actually giving birth to the soul inside time and space. That is, usually we die, we expand to the soul, we incarnate, we contract to ego, we die, we go expand the soul. And if we just keep that up for a few 100,000 years, sooner or later, I think the soul, the integrated consciousness we return to when we die, manifests or wakes up inside the individual human being. And that's what I call the birth of the diamond soul. Literally wake up inside physical existence. I think that is the challenge that we are facing in this century. We no longer have the luxury of trying to run this planet based on the experience of the psychological structure of individual ego. The ego is a magnificent entity, but it's limited. It's cut off from each other and from the larger universe. We need to grow up fast. And grow up in this case is to awaken to the soul that we already are, but we haven't experienced fully inside time and space.
Well, that's an understatement. Yes, we do need to wake up fast. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you might also want to consider joining Patreon, which allows me to keep all of this content free and available to everyone. And if you're looking for like-minded souls, you might also enjoy my online community called Our Neighborhood. Links to join are in the description.